Today I'm going to be talking about and reviewing another Dresden Files entry. This one's number 5, Death Mass. As I said in the last one, so these reviews going forward are mostly going to be spoiler reviews. I just so I don't get too repetitive and don't repeat myself, just because in a series like this, especially, there's only so much you can say without, having spoilers. So I will try and give my very brief initial thoughts that are non-spoiler at the beginning, but they more than likely are going to be a little repetitive unless, there's kind of a dud where I can talk about, the things I didn't like. But I don't really see Butcher headed in that direction if he continues on the path he is now. So yeah, I'll do very, very, very brief non-spoiler at the beginning, and then the big chunk of it will just be spoiler reviews from here on out. So my initial thoughts on Death Mass, another really, really solid entry, and I continue to say it, but the further I get in this series, the more time you invest, the bigger the payoff seems to be. You're learning more about the world. It's becoming more and more interesting, at least to me, how I feel. And the scope just continues to expand. I said it in my last review, but you're really moving away from at its core what feels like a mystery novel, and you're moving towards more of like this grand scale that us fantasy readers are used to. At least that's the way it feels it's going, and from everything I've heard about the series, I think it's headed that way. But yeah, just another really solid entry. Still, these books, nothing against them. They're B tier, which is really good for me still. And no entry has been so groundbreaking to push it above that. And the only entry that I think is C tier would be Full Moon, and I've talked about what I didn't like about that book in that review. So if you haven't watched that video and you're curious, go check that out. But alas, that is where the non-spoiler portion of the review will end. And they're quick reads, they're fun. I always say it. If you want to almost turn your brain off and just enjoy a really, really interesting, wonderful, take on a world or creatures that we have seen before, but twisting it and making them unique, I think Butcher is doing a really, really good job with the Dresden Files. Things feel fresh. I haven't come across, every creature, even the vampires, they don't feel tropey at all. They don't feel overused. They feel fresh. They feel new. Butcher has a unique take on everything he seems to put in these books. So, but okay, that's actually where my non-spoiler review is going to end. So Death Mass, just another really, really solid entry, as I mentioned. I don't want to keep ranking, each following entry higher. I think Death Mass and Summer Night, which was the last book, are about on the same level. It's really hard to give an edge over one or the other. I think this one might get the edge just purely based off the fact that I'm a huge fan of Knights of the Cross, and I will give the edge to Death Mass over Summer Night. So this has been my favorite entry. But I'm a huge fan of Knights of the Cross, and we meet the other two. So in the previous entries, we knew Michael was one, but there were other two swords out there. And we do finally meet the other two knights, if you will. And I really, really loved Butcher's take on the other two knights, Shiro and Sanya, because Michael to me is the quintessential what you would expect out of this, Dresden refers to him as like the hand of God or fist of God or whatever. But Michael very much embodies that, is, extremely, extremely faithful, going into battles, saying prayers and all that stuff, and just very clearly a man of faith. And that's what you would expect. But I love the direction Butcher took with the other two knights. You have Shiro, who we find out is kind of Baptist by default. I forget exactly how it was worded, but it almost sounds like he went to like some event or something he didn't realize was like a a Christian event, and he kind of accidentally got baptized as a Christian, and then he just kind of he found the sword, and that's the path he stuck to. But very clearly not a man of to his core of faith as we'd expect anyways. But very much a man of principle and morals, as we come to find out. So, and then Sonya was even more fun to me. He's he's an atheist, he says, and him and Dresden have this funny back and forth in one of the chapters where Dresden is like, "You're telling me, you're one of the Knights of the Cross, and you know all these terrible things are out there, but you're not even going to be like agnostic or anything like that." And Sonya almost chalks it up to like, I just try not to think about it, or not. That's wrong. He does think about it, but almost like he thinks those things are inconsequential to what he's doing and the path he's taking. And it's just a really cool take, because I almost would have, in the earlier books, when we find out there are 3 Knights of the Cross, you're almost expecting 3 Michael clones, because it's like, how much more can you do with a character that's, acting as the blade of God, if you will. So I thought, those 2 characters that Butcher added were just wonderfully done. Michael features in this book, obviously, but doesn't play a huge part for most of it. I think he's tied up. If I remember right, he's taken into custody for like a 24-hour holding that's been arranged by some people to keep him out of the way. And I really love that Butcher did that, because it really opened the door for us to learn more about Shiro and Sonya, the other 2 knights. And I think it was a great decision, just so we could learn more about those 2 characters, who were both really, really well done and wonderful, in my opinion. So the other thing I really, really loved about this book, this entry, was the baddies, if you will, the Daenerys, as they're called, I believe. But they're just like almost like demons on a different level, if you will. But they're not really demons, as we come to find out. They're corrupted mortals that are given the 30 pieces of silver that Judas got for turning in Jesus. That those are still around, and those pieces of silver, Butcher writes it in a way, he tells us that they corrupt the mind, so like to the point where hardly anyone would be able to resist it, but it's always at its core, it's the Daenerys' choice. That's they're just being tempted, which I think is kind of a clever take on the story of Judas and how he was tempted. So yeah, I just really love that. The big baddies, if you will, in this, I was a huge fan of. I think they're my favorite antagonists so far. And they're all just so unique. I forget her name, but the one of the Daenerys has like 15-foot hair that she can manipulate into like razor sharp, knife edges, basically. That just gave me like this wonderful picture in my mind of like almost like the Grudge type character, with just like if her hair could be manipulated and turned into like little knife edges, and it's just really horrifying to think about and visualize. And that's what I love about the Daenerys. Not only is it a cool take on the 30 pieces of silver, a story that most of us know extremely well, but then they just, each one feels so unique. So we have the Daenerys with the long hair that she can manipulate, and then we have another one which is like like a snake man, and then one we meet early on who's this like huge bear, I believe. And just really, really cool take on the antagonist in this one. And I think that is what really puts it over the edge. Just the combination of learning more about the other two Knights of the Cross, and then having that foiled with, these really, really cool, evil beings. And it's, continuing to show Jim Butcher's world building. Every one of his characters or the beings he creates, all just feel so unique, intriguing. Really, nothing feels overdone or oh, we've seen this before. If we have seen it before, the direction he takes with everything feels very, very unique. So yeah, I really love this. I won't go too much into like the full synopsis as I did more of a Summer Night, but just really, really cool. And I'm continuing to be excited. I get more and more excited with each entry as we go along. The direction this is taking. If they continue, if they're all on this same level, I'd still happily read them, but I have a feeling they're going to continue to raise the stakes. And that's the other thing Butcher does really well. The stakes feel real. They don't feel like everyone's going to come out of each story, with a fresh new face to take on the next big baddie, if you will, in the next entry. So the stakes feel real. The world feels way, way bigger than when it did in Stormfront. He's really building something which could turn out great. I know he's already finished it, but as I continue to read it, I'm really, really interested to see. I couldn't be happier with the direction these are taking, especially since at their core, they're just fun and easy reads. And the payoff, if you will, is really turning into something special, I think. So anyways, let me know your thoughts on Death Mass. Comment down below. And like and subscribe if you will. Thank you very much. I will catch you guys in the next one.